Welcome everybody. So we're refocusing. It's Thursday evening. There has been a lot happening this week, socially, nationally, emotionally, personally, globally. In fact, even just before we pressed the record button, we were sitting here talking about how we're literally on overload of all the things that are happening in the world around us. So we're going to just take a minute. Inhale, exhale, breathe. My husband and I were laughing today because we're so out of shape and we are lifelong exercisers that got into a habit of not exercising at all. So today we were laughing, like, we're going to start sit and be fit. You know, like the old PBS special, I'm in my chair, touch my toes. Like, you know, like we got to start somewhere, right? Whew, sit and be fit. Here we go. Woo, look at this workout we're getting, okay? Yalla. So, as you know, Gila is saying her workout is bringing her chip bowl to her mouth. Her chip bowl to her mouth. It's like me walking to the fridge, to my mouth, thank you. And me walking to the fridge and back for my next serving. That's my workout. So, we digress. But we're starting now. As you know, in this class, we are focused on how to tap into our infinite potential as Jewish women in our own little corner of the world, wherever that may be. We have obviously a lot of women that tap into us here in the Phoenix area. We have women that listen all around the country. We have women that listen in Europe, in Australia, in Asia, at their own time, in their own space. So wherever we are, we're tapping into our infinite potential. Now, we have said this a gazillion times, and we're gonna say it one more time. Whether you are a college student or a busy mom or a working professional, or you spend a lot of your time volunteering and donating to the community, or if you're a hybrid of all of the above, we are all put on this earth at this exact season on the universal timeline for a very important and specific reason. And it is our life's mission to seek out and answer that call. Why are we here? Right? Now, the talents and the experience that we have in life are our gift from above. What we do with those talents, with those gifts, with those skills we've acquired, with those experiences that have made us wiser, what we do with those things are our gift back to our Creator and to the world around us. So here in this class, this once a week power hour, empowerment for Jewish women, our goal, as we all know, is to help us reach our maximum potential of why we're here on this planet in this lifetime. Okay? We know we are God's chosen people. We know that we are here to be a light to the nations. We are born to lead, and we are born to serve. We also know that even though we know that in our seichel, in our common sense, in our brain, it's so easy to get distracted and get confused by the world around us. So instead of leading the world, our actual gut response now is to follow what's happening around us. So our biggest work is actually the daily detox, the daily brainwashing, where we literally need to wash our brain of the nonsense, of the programming that has, it's like a bad prescription. And we don't even realize what's happened to us. So when we do that, when we can literally wipe the old programming and reset our mainframe as to why we're here, what's our purpose, what we're meant to accomplish. Now, none of us knows, we're not sent to planet Earth with a little, operator's manual or a tag that says, here is your purpose. Like it's my tag on my shirt, mission, blah, blah, blah. And when you're 35, this is going to happen. And when you're 72, this is going to happen. And you're going to be here this many amount of days. So make sure you make the most of it. Nobody knows those things. So the whole point of life is to allow our mission to unfold. And, we go through life thinking that we're in pursuit of certain things. We're in pursuit of love. We're in pursuit of parnasa. We're in pursuit of happiness, or whatever it is that we think according to our life circumstances. But of course, we know that Hashem is directing all of those things from a much higher level, and the different chapters of our life story direct us to our purpose. So as we start to open ourselves up to the details of our mission, we start to realize, okay, I'm not here just to eat, drink, and be merry. I'm not here just to show up and react and respond to what I'm not an animal, right? It says in either Tehillim or Mishlei that if you're like a dog whose God is their stomach, it's such a powerful phrase that animals literally, they live by instinct. Their gut instinct is to go in search of food, in search of mating, and in search of being safe. Like gut instinct. And we are the only creature, the only species on earth that God wired with a higher level of existence. But isn't it so interesting? We talk about this sometimes, that each one of us have a moment of awakening, right? So a lot of us are midlife and beyond before we wake up and go, I'm not just here to respond and react. I'm not just here on instinct, but I'm here for a purpose. I'm here for a higher calling. And once we start to realize that, and we start to wake up to that, then what happens is we're awake, right? That's what we call it, the moment of awakening. So every moment, every day, we're looking around us like, even when life gets crazy, we know there's a purpose for it. So we can look at the happenings of our daily life through different lenses. Make sense? And then we can start working on ourselves at a new level each time to be more equipped for the mission, to be in Hebrew we say a bigger keli, like to have stronger vessels to be able to handle and support and funnel whatever these assignments are that Hashem gives us. So, maybe I'm an office manager. Maybe I'm a janitor. Maybe I'm a CEO. Maybe I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a teacher. I'm a mom. I'm a grandma. Whatever my job is in this little teeny season of life, because a lot of people that they become very esoteric, like, oh, what's my life purpose? Well, you don't have one life purpose from birth to death. We have lots of different purposes depending on our chapter, our phase, our season of life, right? So as I start opening myself up, then wherever I'm holding today, let's say today I'm a janitor. So I become awake today that, hey, I'm not just here to eat, drink, and be merry. I'm not a dog whose God is my stomach, but I'm here for a higher purpose. There's more going on than what meets the eye. So what do I do today? Once I have this moment of awakening, what do? Do I my brain just fritzes out and it's too much, I don't know what to do? No. I start where I am. Even a journey of 1,000,000 miles starts with the first step. So what we do is we start where we are. We start exactly where we are. And wherever you're holding, if you're an office manager, if you're in recruiting, if you're, helping an executive team, if you're an entrepreneur, we say, starting today, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. Not out of ego, not out of having to prove myself to the world, but because I am a vessel that everything I'm doing is shining divine light. And I have a piece of the infinite within me. Every single Jew has a piece of the Ein Sof. It means the innermost, holiest essence of Hashem is literally within you. And the Rebbe teaches us that if you have a piece of Hashem, you have all of Hashem. That means you are literally a walking embodiment of Hashem. Now that also means when I go to the club, I take Hashem with me. to the club, okay? Or if I lose it at my husband, this is mamash Hashem in exile, in Galut, because he's with me in my meltdown, okay? But we know that gives us a higher level of responsibility. It is not meant to give us more shame, judgment, self-criticism, self-loathing. And I'm going to say it again, just like we keep repeating the same core themes again and again and again. Jewish guilt is not Jewish. It's not kosher. Jewish guilt is completely treif. It's like eating a bacon cheeseburger. It is not for you. It has nothing to do with you. It is nonsense we've inherited from the dark side. Okay? So anytime you start to feel a shred of guilt, shame, criticism, self-loathing, any of that nonsense, just like the Alter Rebbe says, you know what this symbol means? We talked about this. Yeah. What does this mean? I'm flicking it away like a fly.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. I'm turning the page. Not for me. Okay? And this exercise, the Alter Rebbe says, the Alter Rebbe, of course, being the founder of Chabad, the Alter Rebbe says, and he's bringing what has now been, I mean, he was saying this 250 years ago, well, 200 years ago, 250, and it's now been proven by science repeatedly. The human brain, no matter how smart you are, even if you have the highest level of IQ, perfect SAT scores, the biggest genius of them all, the brain cannot occupy two thoughts at the same time. Now, as women, we try.
I was going to say, unless you're
okay?
Yeah.
As women, we're like, but no, it just means that we are high-powered schizophrenics. That's what it means, okay? And we have 17 personalities happening inside, and we're all talking to each other, and we can talk fast, right? Literally like this, okay? But as we start to understand, and we go like this, now you can talk fast to yourself in all these different conversations and languages and personalities, but as fast as you are, none of them are happening at the same time. So when we do this, we just have to do it faster. Like this hand, just flicking. And every time I do this, you know what happens? It's growing a new mental muscle. And my muscle of changing the thought is getting stronger. Even if there are times, for me, I'm talking to myself, I literally have to do this 500 times a minute to change the thought. But you know, we've talked about in this class a few times about creating a new crease in the brain, right? So if I take a paper and it's never been folded before, it's not it flops back open, right? But if I crease it, like I crease it hard, and I leave it, and I put 10 books on top of it, and I leave it, and I recrease it, and I over and over and over again, it becomes very real. This is what is happening with the synapses, the connections in your brain. So if I think a new thought, and I take action on that thought, it's firing and wiring a new connection in my brain. So while for the last 18 years, because I'm clearly only 18 years old, so for the last 18 years, I've had self-sabotage, self-loathing, self-criticism, blame, judgment, shame rolling in my mind on autopilot. You know, the subconscious mind never stops working. And the Yetzer Hara, the other side, they call it literally the bad guy in your brain. He takes up root, he lives here. And he is firing constantly thoughts of negativity in your mind. That's why, you know, when the ancient philosopher said we have met the enemy and he is us, he was 100% right. And it's because that negativity is so consistent in our mind, meant to keep you small, to keep you in a narrow place. And right now, it's interesting, by Hashgacha Pratit, divine providence. I just gave it to you in 3 languages, Ashkenazi, Sephardic, and English, okay? So, Yes. Sephardi Hebrew. That's what I said, okay? That was my version. By divine providence, right now, we're in Parsha Bo, which is where Hashem says to Moshe, come. Bo means come, right? Why is Hashem saying come? He's sending Moshe to Paro. So why come? Because he's saying, come with me to Paro. I'm not sending you by yourself, okay? But in this Parsha, what's happening is it's the last of the plagues and the beginning of the Exodus, beginning of the Jewish people fleeing from Egypt. But there's something so powerful happening here. Do you know what Mitzrayim? Mitzrayim is Egypt in Hebrew, right? But do you know what Mitzrayim means? The underlying meaning of Mitzrayim? It means a narrow place. Small-mindedness. So every single one of us, we're instructed in the Torah, you must see yourself every single day as if you are the Jew leaving Mitzrayim. Now, we're told by our sages, specifically by the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Rebbe, and even a little bit before that, that every single Jew right now, so we're taught that this is the final generation of Galut, of exile, and the first generation of the Geula, of the redemption. And we're also taught that all of us, our neshamas, were at Har Sinai. So we were all literally there at Mount Sinai when Hashem was giving the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu and to the Jewish people. All of us were there, not just in soul, but in body. We were there, and we're now here again. Because why? It is the ultimate correction that everyone was there at the first redemption, will be here again after going through lifetimes of correction, will be here at the ultimate redemption. Okay? Now, why am I sharing that with you right now? Mitzrayim, the Hebrew name of Egypt, means a narrow place. I want you to just wrap your head around this for a second, okay? And the Torah tells us every single day we are to live as if we were literally being released from Mitzrayim today. So if we understand what this, it doesn't mean, oh my gosh, I have to recount a history lesson today. That's not what it's actually telling us. It's telling us every single day we have to unlock ourselves from small-mindedness, from the narrow place. And this is what the Yetzer Hara are doing. The Yetzer Hara, the other side, is meant to keep us small, to keep us locked without our powers. And Hashem is saying, you are infinite beings, especially because you're Jewish women. You have a whole different higher level of holiness and power than men. Men have to really work on themselves. Yours is, it's innate. It's in us. This is why women don't have all the time-bound mitzvahs. It's why women don't have to daven 3 times a day. It's why women don't have to put tefillin. It's why we don't, all those things, because women, by the way Hashem created us, are much more elevated and much more higher. Now, we can't understand it consciously, but it's just your soul level, that's what's happening, okay? However, we, as a body of Jews and as women, we're sleepwalking. We are completely asleep through our life, not understanding how much power we have. It's like we're deactivated. Are you with me on this? Oh, yeah. So if every day I am to wake up and realize that I was released from Mitzrayim today, it means in Tehillim, Hashem tells us, God's mercies are new every morning. It means Hashem wakes up every single morning, it wakes you up and says, I'm not done with you yet. There's more to do. There's more to learn. There's more to give. Okay, so there's so much to unpack there. But the moment we learn this, the moment we start, and every day we learn it anew. Like every day, my mind is blown. Yo, we said this at the Shabbat dinner a few weeks ago, but Moti and I have this conversation between ourselves so often. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are we holding? Of our potential power, where are we operating? And typically we're somewhere between a 2 and a 3. And it's not a joke. We're not saying that to sound, like false humility or whatever. We just know if we would actually step into our power, we would be infinitely more effective and powerful and greater than where we're holding right now, because we're just living under a blanket of mediocrity and excuses of all the junk that gets in our way. There's an old saying in Moroccan that according to the size of the camel, they pick the size of the load, right? So they're going to load up the camel based on how big her hips are, okay? So each one of us are given tasks and jobs and responsibilities in this life based on the gifts, skills, talents, etc. that Hashem gives us. And we all know, I can see by the looks on your faces, that we're like, oh man, I got to get my act together. I got to wake up here, okay? But again, it is zero judgment. It is, we can either be overwhelmed and bummed, or we can be excited and empowered. Because yesterday is history. Tomorrow is a mystery. Today is a gift, a present. So how do we step into our maximum power? First of all, delete all that baggage we're carrying from the past, okay? There's a reason why your rear view mirror is this big and your windshield is like this, because we're focused on where we're headed. And the only reason we even have the rear view mirror is to learn lessons from the past, right? But how many of us, every decision we make is from the filter of fear, shame, judgment, failures, toxicity, all this nonsense. And so we go through life, honestly, as if we are in a landmine. They're all through Europe, and even some in Israel, like they're like these old barbed wire signs, and it's like landmines, don't walk here, because they're old activated mines. And so it's like you're walking around like duck and cover, because you're living every day in fear of what might explode. Why are we doing that? Because of what we've been through in the past, and we're carrying all of that like baggage. Have you ever heard the saying, why would you go to the ocean with a teaspoon? No. So it means Hashem has so much abundance waiting for us, and we're showing up like, this is my vessel. This is my keli, my little plastic spoon. What can you fit on here, Hashem? This is my mother-in-law's phrase. Okay? Why? Yes. Okay, it's so Moroccan, right? So why? I don't know about, I've told y'all this so many times. I do not want to go down in a pile of potential. I want to skirt across that finish line. I'm screaming with my hair on fire, like, woohoo! We made it. We did everything we could. Not, wah, wah. Thanks for noticing me. Here I am. Another day. I'm a martyr. How are you? I'm fine. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. It's disgusting. Why? Why would we do that? On a scale of 1 to 10, we're living at like a negative 35. What is that? That is because we have bought into the vaccines of this world that are keeping us completely sedated. Okay? So what do we need to do? Did y'all ever watch the movie The Matrix?
Yeah.
Okay? Oh, I love this movie so much. There's so many metaphors here. Never mind, it was written by Jewish people, and they understood. They were on a massive acid trip of Kabbalah when they wrote this movie. Okay? But what do we need to do? Unplug. Unplug from the mainframe. Okay? Now, back to the point. Now, when we understand that we're talking about, I'm going to unplug and I'm having my moment of awakening. Okay? I realize I've been sleepwalking. I've literally been asleep. Okay? I'm waking up now. And by the way, this awareness of I've been sleepwalking and I'm waking up, it's not a one-time thing. It happens at levels. New level, new devil. So you hit a new level and then you get comfortable and then you start to fall asleep again. And then you're comfortable, you're coasting. And then, oh, gotta wake up now. And then you go to a new level. And then you get comfortable, you coast, and you start to fall asleep at the wheel again. Okay, so this is not a one-time thing. Okay, so the Rebbe says, the moment you have your awakening, what happens? We get overzealous, actually. And we're like, oh, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna change the world. I need to change everything. And then we try to go from zero to hero and we want to chunk everything. And the Rebbe says, no. Like if he used to say all the time to Balei Tshuva, to people they didn't grow up religious, and then they would start to get connected to Torah mitzvahs, and they would come to him like full of lights. Just, Rebbe, I'm gonna be a world changer. He's like, you're not going anywhere. Stay exactly where you are and do it to the best of your ability to shine divine light. So, for example, an artist came to him once, a very well-known artist, beautiful paintings, beautiful artwork, sold for a lot of money. And this person came to the Rebbe and wanted to chunk it all and go to yeshiva somewhere and sit in the study hall and kollel, whatever. The Rebbe said, it was the worst idea you could have. Don't do it. How are you going to shine Hashem's light where you are? You're going to be the best artist you could possibly be. And through that art, you're going to shine Hashem's light. So if I'm a janitor, I'm going to have the squeakiest floors of all. If I'm an office manager, I'm going to have the happiest office. Anything I'm doing, I'm going to do it by shining my infinite light, by channeling. Everybody's here. Are you familiar with the Care Bears?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Okay, Care Bears are a cartoon from maybe the 80s or early 90s. And there were these little cartoon. You don't know the Care Bears?
No, 80s or 70s.
80s, 70s?
Yeah.
Definitely 80s. And there's little cartoon bears, like teddy bears, all different colors. And they each had a different, like on their tummy, like there was Sunshine Bear, there was Bedtime Bear, there was Lonely Bear. Like every bear had a different character trait. And they lived in the clouds. And whenever the bears would need to tackle the dark, because every cartoon has like good and evil, right? So whenever they would need to tackle the darkness, they would all get together, all the Care Bears, they would get together, they would link arms like this, and they would have what they called the Care Bear stare. And they would channel there was a Care Bear stare. And all of a sudden this light would beam from their bellies. It was like rays of light. And the rays of light would heal the world. Literally, okay? So whenever I'm thinking I'm channeling I'm like, I'm doing a massive Care Bear stare to the world right now, okay? So you have this light, this power that comes from you. It's there whether you can see it or not, but we have our dial turned down so low that the pilot has almost burnt out. So we have to channel that light and re-strengthen it, okay? So there are going to be times where you feel like you're on top of the world and you have everything to give. And there are times where you feel like you are so empty and so defeated and deflated that you have absolutely nothing to give. But what we have to remember is that our power, our superpower, it's always within. It's always there waiting for you to believe in yourself and to filter out all that stinking thinking, right? Because it's our job. It's your job. It's my job. It's our job to keep our tanks full. In fact, that's why you come to this class, right? You come to Shiur Torah. You come to something a couple of times a week to literally give a shot in your vein so that you can refill your tanks, because you cannot teach what you do not know. You cannot lead where you do not go. You can't give away what you don't have. So how can you keep refilling the tanks of everybody in your life, to your kids or your family or anybody? How can you keep doing that when you're running on empty? That's why when we're burnt out, what do? We spew toxicity to everyone around us, because it's like fumes. There's nothing, we have nothing left to give from. So we're just spewing fumes to everybody around us, and then it becomes a domino effect of toxicity. Okay, so what does this mean? It means it's literally our job to manage our own greatness. Okay? That means it is my responsibility and nobody else's to cultivate my power. I am a superhero. You are a superhero. We are all superheroes. Not in a cartoonist way, but actual walking, living, breathing heroines, world changers, but we've been asleep all this time. So when I decide to manage my own power, I don't do this from a place of ego, not like, ooh, look at me, I'm so fancy and important and have so much, to give. But it's also important to understand, I also don't do it from a place of false humility. Does everyone understand the difference between ego and false humility? False humility is actually another flare of the ego. It's another way of saying, oh, not me. Who am I? What do I have to give? And why? Because it's like this ridiculous belief of having no money is a good thing. Like money is the root of all evil. Okay? False humility is just as stupid as the saying money is the root of all evil. Okay? Money is not a blessing or a curse. Neither one. Money is a test. How we act with it and how we act without it are both character refinement from the test of money. How you act with your gifts and whether you negate them or not is a test. Okay? And the best example of this is actually Moshe Rabbeinu. So it says about Moshe, he was the humblest man to ever live. Yet at the same time, he was the greatest king of the Jewish people. So how do the two go together? Because Moshe said, first of all, he prayed and begged for someone else to take the job. Remember all of his conversations with Hashem at the burning bush? Please, no, not me. I have a speech impediment. Blah, blah, blah. Who am I? He went round and round and round and round. And finally, Hashem had to slap him and say, dude, homie, you're my guy. Okay? So finally, Moshe answered that call. But Moshe said until his dying day, if anyone else had been given my job, they could have done it better. But because Hashem gave the job to me, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. So it didn't inflate his ego. He didn't feel special. He just happened to be born into the body Hashem wanted to use for this role. And each one of us, the same thing is true. So you don't have to act like a doormat, and you don't have to act like a princess. With privilege comes responsibility, right? Best line ever from Spider-Man. So we know that every single role that you're in, you are there to shine your light. Okay, now, we've been talking ever since the beginning of the year, ever since Rosh Hashanah. What does it take to thrive in our daily life? Okay, we've covered a few key issues. We know that in order to thrive, we have to work on our internal happiness, right? It's a daily work. We also know that we must be aware of and trust in divine providence, trusting that you are always in the right place at the right time. Everything is from Hashem for your good, for their best good, and for the highest good of all. That is also a daily work, right? We know that we must live with bitachon, which means certainty that your loving Father has your back. Guess what? That's also a daily work. Okay? So once we are aware of those foundational layers, it doesn't mean we've mastered them. I don't know if we'll ever master them. It's a daily work. That's the point. Okay? In fact, it said that we can think of Hashem could give all of us an Amex Black card. He could. Okay, but if he gave me an Amex Black card, if I gave my kid, I know my son, if I gave him an Amex Black card, how often would he call?
Never.
Not very often, because he calls me a few times a week now. Mommy, I need laundry. Mommy, I need Shabbos treats. Mommy. Okay? So if I gave him an Amex Black card, he wouldn't call. And it says, even of the Jewish people in the desert, how often did the manna come down from Shemaim, from heaven? The man. How often did the manna come down? Every morning. Why? Because Hashem wanted his children to connect with him every day. He could have given the manna. So what is the manna? The manna is the food that he gave to sustain the people in the desert for 40 years. For 40 years, he gave them food, delivered it. It was like it came up from the grass like dew every morning, miraculously. And they say that the manna, whatever you were craving, that's what the manna tasted like. You want sushi? Tastes like sushi. You want a chocolate cake? Tastes like chocolate cake. You want a lemon truffles? Tastes like lemon truffles. Okay? But it came every day. And if you tried to, if I went out and stored extra, it would rot. And only on Friday, it came double portions, so you didn't go collect it on Shabbos. Why? Because Hashem wanted his children to connect with him every day. That's why we don't have Amex Black cards that he doesn't give us. Okay? So once we're aware of these foundational layers of what we need to, okay, again, happiness, bitachon, and belief in divine providence. Okay? Those are my 3 foundational layers. Everybody with me on that? Doesn't mean I've mastered them, but it means I know it's what I need to focus on, right? Once I have those, what's next?
Shining your light.
Always. She says shining her light. And this actually brings us to the little secret hidden piece of today's class, which is becoming royalty. Okay? So we have our crown. Maybe you need to straighten your crown. Maybe it got a little tilted. It became tarnished. It's not so shiny. Okay? But I want to ask you a question. If I'm becoming royalty, if you're becoming royalty, what do you think it means to show up every day as the daughter of the king? This is the conversation we're going to have for the remainder of tonight. Okay? So if I think of how do we combat the daily chaos of life and the muck that just keeps me stuck and keeps me stressed and keeps me, it robs me of my joy and it keeps me out of my own happiness, okay? And when I've got stress and overwhelm and mental clutter, that's just, again, all those split personality situations, my issues are showing up again. What do I do? Do you think it's possible to get rid of that constant worry and negative self-talk? What do we do? Okay, I want to ask you something. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? Okay, if you had no fear at all, who would you be? What would you become? Gila's pointing her nose up. Okay, now let me add a different layer. A snob. Where we're gonna get to that in a second, because you're right. Because the minute that I don't have to work, I become entitled, right? And has v'shalom, lo aleinu, not to us. That is the opposite. We see that sickness happening in the world today. Okay, so we're gonna tackle that in a minute. But here's the thing: if you knew that you had a
What? They sent me to missions here.
If you knew that you had a loving, caring father who was literally the king of the entire universe. Okay, I'm talking about a physical king. I'm not talking about just an esoteric spiritual king that you can't see. Okay, a physical king. Your dad. How would you show up in the world every day? Okay, your dad has an endless bank account. He literally owns the entire world's money. He can heal any illness. He can solve any problem. You have nothing to worry about on a daily basis. What would you do with yourself?
I would have like 500 philanthropies.
Hannah says she would have 500 philanthropies. Agreed. And Gila says, what's left? Now,
I'd want to share it with the world.
Janet says she would want to share it with the world. Now, here's the thing. You still have to work. Okay? Why? Because this amazing king, your dad, that has your back, he gives you responsibilities. Okay? Because you don't get to just sit around like a spoiled brat, because he's a responsible king. And he knows that if he pampers you too much, you atrophy. You become nothing. You become like a loser, like all the rich kid inheritance that we see all over social media today. Okay? So, you still have responsibilities. You still have a job to do. You understand it has been built into your DNA. With privilege comes responsibility. It has been built into your DNA. You're born to lead, born to serve. So servant leadership has been built into your DNA. Now, understanding that, how would you show up to the world? I want you to think about this. Think about it for real, okay? How would you walk? How would you talk? How would you dress? Okay, how would you think? How would you conduct yourself on a daily basis? You are an actual princess. Now, why is this conversation important? Because this is actually who you are. The breakdown is that we are so far removed from our truth, we don't believe it. We don't see it. We don't know it. And what Hashem tells us in Tehillim, actually he says that even in last week's Parsha, in Parsha Shemot, when Hashem says to Moshe, when Moshe says, who will I tell them sent me? He said, tell them I will be. We talked about this a week or two ago, right? What does it mean? It means however you are to me, I will be to you. So if we don't believe this is our dad, he's not going to show up like that in our life, because he's waiting for us to take the first step. Because if we didn't have to initiate it, there would be no free choice. That's where the power of free choice comes in. Hashem has all the power, and you have this entire legacy waiting for you. But we've been so brainwashed and programmed by the world that we have completely lost connection with the reality of our inheritance. So we're living like paupers. We're living like street bums when we're meant to be in the palace. Okay? So I want to talk just for a couple minutes about what it means to be regal. And this word regal, this is going to be our biggest takeaway for today. Okay? As we go through the rest of the week, this is our, like on Sesame Street, they would have like the word of the day or the letter or the number. Okay? So the word of the day, says Big Bird, is regal. How much of your day would you say you spend being regal? Now, this word is not a job description. It's a state of being. Okay? So if I am regal, what does the word regal mean to you? Give me some, when I say regal, what comes to mind? Class. Okay.
Helpful.
Education. Helpful. Okay.
Present.
In what way?
Being there for yourself and for others.
Okay.
Seeing what's actually going on around you.
Great. Etiquette.
Yeah.
Okay. What else?
Positivity.
Positivity. Why? How do you connect the two? I love it. What makes the connection for you?
If you're positive, you show the good sides. That's
Okay.
what you want to show.
Okay. She says if you're positive, you show the good side. That's what comes up naturally. Mm-hmm. It's very good. So if I'm regal, I want to give you another word picture to associate here. Have you ever heard the phrase, I'm sure you have, old money versus new money?
Oh yeah.
Okay. What does new money mean, symbolize? Naivety. Okay. What else? Why naivety, by the way?
They don't know what they don't know. They didn't have it before. So
Sure.
it's fresh.
Yep. You don't know what you don't know. Okay.
I hate to say this word, but ignorance.
Ignorance. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And a lack of financial acumen, a
Yes.
lack of financial awareness,
Yes.
right? What else?
Frivolity.
Frivolity. Why? Frivolity.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
When you didn't have something to begin with and you get something that in abundance
Yes.
later, you don't necessarily, it's like you think it's always going to
Mhm.
be there.
Like winning the lottery.
Exactly. And this goes back exactly to what we were talking about a week or two ago in why the average lottery winner is back to their original previous state within 7 years, because they do not have the financial thermostat to handle this level of abundance.
There's a
So they act like trailer trash, forgive the phrase, but it's a very crass phrase. So they're acting like trailer trash, Beverly Hillbillies, but with a big bank account. So they're in Texas we say your body's your mouth is writing checks that your body can't cash.
Yeah.
Right? So it's this exact same concept, okay? So there's another piece that comes up with new money, which is a need to show myself, right? To prove to the world around me, look
I
at me,
succeeded.
I have money, I've arrived, I'm success.
That's where the ignorance comes
Right?
from. Yeah.
And whereas if you take old money or real wealth, generational wealth,
Withstanding wealth.
okay? And if you take the world's highest paid, let's say half a dozen people, okay, just by example right now, do any of them walk around showing with their clothes,
Nope.
with their home, that they have money? They don't.
Most of them.
Most of them do not, okay? And only the one who does, by the way, is gone through a midlife crisis and recently divorced and married to a new trophy wife and going through his own little ego crisis.
Look at Bezos.
Okay, this was,
The way she was dressed for the inauguration.
I didn't say any names, but we're on the same page, okay? So,
Bezos' girlfriend. She forgot to put the shirt.
the situation here is that true wealth, old money, do not need to advertise themselves
There's nothing to prove.
because their dignity, their understanding, their belief is internal.
Yeah.
They don't need outside validation of who they are inside, right? So when we're talking regal, this is what I want us to understand, okay? I'm not sitting as a spoiled brat in my penthouse on crack and depressed because I might have been given an Amex black card, but I was given no purpose in life, right? But if I'm regal, it means that I show up with poise, with dignity, with class. And in fact, there are a lot of really great examples of if I'm a regal person, how do I dress?
Conservative.
I dress conservatively. Why?
Because you have respect for yourself.
Because I have self-respect. Because my body is precious, right? I'm a jewel. I'm an actual jewel. And I don't need to cheapen my body by flaunting it to the crowd. If I am dressed very scantily clad, which by the way, I used to do because I had zero self-esteem and I had zero understanding. So I was looking to the world for validation, and in all the magazines and all the social media channels, everywhere I went is the less you have on, the better. And if I starve myself and if I take every trick in the book and I do whatever to look like a mannequin, and if I happen to achieve it for a quick minute, then I should put on as least clothes as possible and parade myself around and say, look, I look like a trophy, like everyone else. But when I do that, I don't realize that I'm like a cheap fruit stand out on the street. Anyone can come along and grab it. But real jewelry, real prized possessions, if I'm a diamond, where are diamonds kept? Are they paraded on the street at the fruit stand? No. They're in a vault. They're protected. They're guarded. Because they're worthy. They're worth something, no matter what anybody on the street says. So if I am truly a daughter of the King, I don't need my inner thigh, my thigh gap, whether I have one or not, to be publicized to the street, right? Because I know my worth. So I always think of like when if you look at like actual kings and queens, like Europe is still very full of monarchies. And if you look at how the monarchs dress versus the new money on the street or people that are trying to pretend or look like they have money, it's such a night and day difference. So why am I taking so much time to give you this visual? Because this is our takeaway for the week. Okay? This week, we are going to work on becoming royalty. This week, with everything I think, how I sit, how I walk, how I talk, how I answer my emails, how I speak to my children, how I speak to my boss, how I speak to the people that drive me crazy. If I am the daughter of the King, the daughter, that's what I want you to think of yourself, the only daughter of the King, do you think it would change how you show up in the world on a daily basis if you understood that this is your legacy, that this is your inheritance? Yes? Okay, so this is what we're going to practice this week. Okay? And it's a knowing. It's an internal knowing. Now, just like, think of a rags to riches story, okay? You were just plucked up, I was just plucked up, literally drunk in the street, in an alley, rolling around with the pigs. Okay? I forgot who I was. I lost my way. I was out being crazy. The lowest of the low of the low. And my father comes and says, hey, you forgot who you are. Okay, now I've been out there for decades. I've lost myself. I was little teeny tiny when I lost my way. I don't know what it means to live in a palace. I don't know what it's like to talk royally and to live regally and to conduct myself with dignity. I'm used to walking around like cheap trash on the street. This is how I think about myself. So I'm having to relearn everything. How to talk to myself. How to think. Never mind, does the fork go on the right or the left? Like, that's semantics, okay? But I'm talking about the inner piece of me. So don't get defeated or deflated this week when you forget. You're no longer on the street. You're now in the palace. And every time you think of it, you're going to remind yourself that you are regal. You are royal. You are the daughter of the King. Okay? So let's wrap up. Let's summarize. We know
I just arrived.
that we are all put in this earth at this exact time for a very specific reason. You are here for a job that literally no one else on the planet can do. Only you, in your little corner of the world, okay? And it is your life's responsibility and meaning to figure out what that is. Doesn't mean we freak out and stress out and go, what's my purpose? Okay, we open ourselves up. And we start today giving our absolute best we can give to shine our divine light in every way that we can. And we know that we're constantly having to scrub, brainwash, detox, get rid of all that thought. And our job is the daily internal work to detoxify and remind myself, I'm no longer a pauper. I'm now in the palace. And how do I show up today to live my true inheritance? And every time you do that, that is geula. That is you freeing yourself from the exile and choosing to embrace a geula moment. And when you do that, it gives a geula flash, it gives her geula energy, it gives her geula energy, it gives all of us, and we strengthen the ultimate geula by each time we choose the light over the darkness, and we choose to take our place in the palace instead of being in the street. Everybody with me? Any questions?
Nope.
Are you ready to go home as a princess?
Yes, ma'am.
As the daughter of the king? So next week, we're all going to wear our crowns. We're going to come literally living in our inheritance, in our royalty, and we're going to start to work on the next level of once I have lived with that awareness for a whole week of being in the palace. You're probably going to circle the palace all week going, I don't deserve to be in the palace. And we'll go from there.
I
Okay?
don't know about that.
You're like, bring it on, baby, bring it. You are the daughter of the king. You got this. Love y'all.